Yo, what's good? Big Z here, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make this.
Yeah.
So in this video, I want to talk about how you can make professional sounding tech house tracks. And all those synth sounds you just heard are actually from my new preset pack, which is out now at bigzsounds.com. It's my first time doing a preset pack for the free synth Vital, so you don't need to own any expensive third-party synths to use these sounds. Anyway, back to tech house. The sound of the genre has changed a lot over the past few years and decades. In the 90s and early 2000s, the sound was very minimal, and the track I just played you is more of a modern take on tech house. It's known for deep, bouncy bass lines, big synth stabs, and memorable lead synth phrases. Genre snobs are always trying to label music and put it in a box, but the lines are so blurred between different genres these days. For tech house, you can think of artists like Chris Lake, Fisher, Noizu, and Dom Dalla. Those are some of the ones that are pioneering the modern tech house sound. Let's get into how I made this track now. The build-up in tech house is so important because you want to really bring that energy up before you slam the listener in the face with your bass line.
Yeah.
So I have this repetitive lead melody here. And being repetitive actually helps in this genre because it's all about finding the right rhythm and groove. If I were to take a percussion sound that's just playing the rhythm of the lead melody, you'll see it actually has the same rhythm as the bass line in the drop. So even though the bass line has different notes, I'm still keeping that rhythm to get that groove stuck in your head. And you definitely want to add some swing to your rhythm so it's not perfectly on the grid. Anyway, this lead sound is called Mistress, and all I'm doing is playing with these macros over here to open up the filters to add energy throughout the build-up. All the presets in the pack use each of the 4 macro controls, so you don't need to know how to use this synth. You can just mess around with these 4 knobs over here to change the sound. On top of that synth, I have this stutter effect that's getting faster throughout the build-up. All I had to do was automate this macro right here. Having that speed up throughout the build-up really helps add some more energy too. Then just to add some background atmosphere, I have this industrial sounding stab. And right before the drop, I wanted to have a big wall of sound and have everything else go silent.
Yeah.
And this sound was perfect for filling that gap.
Yeah.
It's cool to have a big synth fill sometimes instead of a drum fill. It keeps things interesting and keeps the listener on their toes. So then all that energy gets released from the build-up and goes straight into the bass line.
Yeah.
watched my most recent video about songwriting, you know why these tech house tracks hit so hard. It's because during the build-up, they have all these layers and all this reverb, and then the drop hits, and all those layers and that reverb are taken away. So you're just left with a bass line and some drums. And that contrast is what makes the drop hit so hard. Anyway, the bass line has a nice bouncy rhythm to it, and I've added a subtle pitch bend in there just to keep things interesting. When you're writing a bass line, the note lengths are super important. Like if I just changed a couple of note lengths, it can change the whole feel of the bass line. This is the bass sound in Vital. I've made sure not to have anything over like 400 hertz coming out, so it's nice and deep. In the second half of the drop, I add on a second bass layer. And I'm just making sure everything below like 150 hertz is cut off to make room for that other bass. And this bass sounds cool because I'm opening it up throughout the second half of the drop to add some more energy. So one of the other big parts of modern tech house is having a big lead synth phrase like this one. It's not like a lead melody that's playing throughout the whole drop like in a progressive house track or something. It's just tastefully thrown in there at certain times to make the whole track more memorable. And I think you guys will like the name of this preset. I called it What's Good. Then it's always good to have some random stabs. But they're not totally random. I'm using those stabs to emphasize the last note in the bass line. So this note right here, I'm layering that with the stab sounds just to emphasize it. Also, I love this little fill over here. That's just another stutter synth, and I'm just messing around with the macro here. That's another example of how a synth fill can work well instead of just having a drum fill.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you're making tech house music, I would recommend trying to keep your drops pretty minimal, so they're polar opposites of the build-ups that have lots of layers and energy. And then I would spend a lot of time trying to find the right rhythm, because it's all about the groove. Then you can always throw in those random stab sounds and synth phrases later. Anyway, thank you guys for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. If you're interested in these sounds, you can check them out down below. The whole reason I made this pack is because I know a lot of you can't afford expensive third-party synth plugins, so that's why I made the whole pack on the free synth Vital. So it's really easy to download the synth. I'll have a video on my website page explaining how to do it and how to install the presets. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.